This podcast is brought to you by the Orlando Economic Partnership. Welcome to the City Playbook, a new podcast that's going to take you behind the ideas, the innovation, and the initiatives shaping the future of Orlando. I'm Tim Giuliani, President and CEO of the Orlando Economic Partnership. If you've ever wondered what it takes to make a city a place people want to live, play, build, belong, develop, then this is the show for you. This is for policymakers, business leaders, students, residents, anyone that's paying attention to how the future of Orlando is taking shape. We're going to have conversations that typically happen behind closed doors, give you access to the decision makers and the difference makers that are shaping the future of Central Florida. So if you're curious about what's next for Orlando, and join us as we build the city together. I had a great time interviewing Piero with Pana. Pana is an app, and his story is amazing. So imagine yourself 3-4 years into a new country, immigrating, launching a new product, having over 200,000 users jump on your platform. Well, that's Piero's story. And when he moved to the US, first thing he wanted was a buddy, someone that could help with setting up bank accounts, phone lines, getting driver's license, etc. Well, he decided to put that product into the market. So a couple 100,000 users later, Piero's an incredible story. Might not have been where he started in banking or on TV as a young child, but here he is, and here's his story. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe this podcast. Piero, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're here to talk about Pana, your story. We're here to talk about Orlando.
Yep.
Want to get some advice from you. But first things first, we got to learn about you. Give us just a little bit about your background, you know?
Well, thank you. Obviously, happy to be here. And I think, I come from a family where this type of setting was very normal. Like my dad was in the TV industry.
Okay.
And like a lot of
anchor?
Yeah, he was a TV host and producer. It was very expected of us to follow those steps in terms of TV and just go into media. And I liked it. And I even tried it. I had my own TV show like when I was little.
Okay.
But it was very clear to me that I loved business. And I said, well, how can I leverage this ability to speak in public and this familiarity I have with the industry and inject that into the business side?
Right.
And how can I use that to excel? And so it became really clear to me that I always wanted to have my own company, build a great product and help a lot of customers on that front. Mm-hmm. So I started working at big banks and insurance company and investment funds, not because I wanted to work there and retire there, but I went there to get those insights and how it works, how does it look from the inside, so you can then either improve or disrupt or whatever in the industry. And like, you want to go to the best school, right? And that's kind of my thinking back in my teenage years. Okay. And I went through those jobs just trying to learn and grasp it all.
Okay.
And I always knew I was going to start my own thing. And I had my first startup in 2010, raised some cash, built a great product, learned a lot, had some successes and many learnings.
Sure.
It didn't work as expected, but it was like my, MBA or PhD of life, right? In startups. So, that's kind of like how it started, shaping up. Banking, insurance, investment funds, my own startup, my own first Fintech. And that led to having this big and amazing job at Scotiabank, which is a global international bank, where I led the digital banking division from Toronto. And there's where I got this borderless perspective, if you may.
So where'd your story start?
Dominican Republic.
Okay. So Dominican Republic to where next?
Dominican Republic, then for a while, Canada. And then through the pandemic, went back to DR and worked from home there. Okay. And that's where in 2021 is where on a trip I come to Orlando to visit family, and that's when the idea of this business came about.
Okay. So talk to about that trip. Okay, you're here with your family,
Yeah.
visiting family.
Yeah.
Lots to do in Orlando. Tell us about when you transitioned from this is a good trip to this might be a business, this might be a home.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
So obviously we had been visiting Orlando like forever because you have to come to the parks and whatnot. And my sister-in-law had been living here for 7-8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we loved the place and it was so nice visiting her. We never had like plans back then to move here, but we used to look, my wife and I, we used to look at this and it was like, it would be nice to live here. But obviously back then we didn't have a reason. Okay. And one day we come to visit her. I say, you know what? I want to open a bank account. And I come from a global bank, and I wanted to even understand what's the experience of just opening a bank account in the U.S.
Okay.
And that's when I went through this experience in a bank branch, and I said, I had such a difficult time because who I was and because I didn't have a social security number back then. And I said, but clearly there's an opportunity. And we saw that as an opportunity in that experience. And it said, we can definitely do this 10x better and build a banking experience for, non-resident aliens. And it was completely clear. And from a regulation perspective, it was actually encouraged to build banking experience for non-resident aliens. And that's where I said, this is it. And we got into Y Combinator, which is a huge accelerator.
Yeah, that was a big step.
And when we got into Y Combinator,
yeah.
I was like, okay, how can I move to the U.S.? I need to move to the U.S. to build this business. And I applied for a O1 visa, which is kind of like extraordinary ability type of work visa. Okay. And I look at my wife and I said, we got into YC, we got the visa, and was like, so where do we move? And that's where my sister-in-law, she's like, you should come here.
Okay.
And I'm like,
so
okay.
When you were considering Orlando then,
yeah.
What other cities were you considering?
We were considering Miami, New York, and California because of the obvious startup reasons.
Okay.
But through the pandemic and at Scotiabank, we had this experience of building teams remotely. I had a team of 18 and we grew it to 183. So you can imagine like getting used to scaling remote work.
Yeah.
And I said, I think we can make it work remotely, but I need to live in the US. So where? And then we got to that question. Right. And obviously my sister-in-law had played a big part, but also it was like, where can we have a safe place to live? Can we raise our kids? That my daughter, who is in the spectrum, that she can have the best care.
Sure.
That's close by. That I can travel to Miami, to New York, to California, to wherever I need to travel. And I'm close and it's easy. And like the airport, the infrastructure. Yeah. And it's safe and it's clean and it feels nice. And this checked all the boxes. Yeah. And that's where we said, it's Orlando. And in fact, my sister-in-law, then she moved out because her husband got transferred. Right. And we looked at ourselves and like, okay, what are we going to do? And we said, we're staying here.
So you've been, how long in Orlando now?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. So kind of getting a feel for not only the market, but setting up your life here. 3 years, kind of things start to feel a little bit comfortable. Talk about, the scaling part of the company, of how you've gone through that process, because I know that could be very stressful. There's ups and downs. Give us one of your stories of when you just didn't think it was going to work.
I can give you a million. It's a roller coaster. It's how ironic, right? I think the toughest part for us has been fundraising in this environment, right? And like there's so much uncertainty, but fundraising, definitely the toughest part.
Okay. So inevitable challenges. You get ready to launch your product. Talk about those first few days, first few weeks of starting to realize that you're really onto something here.
I remember at Scotiabank, I had an amazing job, paid very well, and no one in their right mind would quit. And I was 36 back then, and I said, if I'm 40 and I have not started I haven't given it a try to build this company, I'm gonna feel that the bus left and I didn't get in. And I told my wife, and she was still a little bit sour of the first startup. She was like, again. And I was like, yes. And I feel so strongly about this, and I can't explain, but and that certainty that came out of my my words, and she felt it. She was like, oh God, he's gonna do it either I support him or not. And I reached out to my co-founder, and we started talking about this. And I said, dude, I really think we have something here. And obviously, when you get into Y Combinator, which only 1% get in, and like, okay, now you have something. And from there on, obviously, lots of ups, lots of downs. But I think that's the moment where we saw we had something strong.
Yeah. So tell us about what the product is. What does the company do?
Pana is a neobank. It's a global neobank for diasporas across the world. And, like me, I'm here in the U.S. and getting set up from scratch. When you are not from scratch, that you had a complete life and financial suite of products and credit history in another country, starting from scratch, it feels a little bit uncomfortable very actually. And we saw an opportunity to bank very good from an economic and business perspective, very good type of customers that were completely overlooked. Pana is a neobank for overlooked diasporas across the globe, and we've started with my cohort, which is the U.S. Hispanics in the U.S. and across LATAM. And we offer checking accounts that you can open with just your passport or your international ID or more than 100 IDs, and you can move money seamlessly. So think of it as a Venmo or as a cross-border Zelle or a Cash App that works globally and seamlessly.
Interesting. So I'm curious. The world's global, business is global, banking's global, transactions are global. Governments wax and wane on internationalization and policies. There's tariffs and there's all sorts of geopolitical things going on. But talk about how at this particular time, this particular product is really resonating with a huge customer base.
Yeah, it's a great question. I worked at Scotiabank, which is a global bank, 200 years old. And there I learned how to build good financial products and while being very mindful of risks and managing risk accordingly. And one of the things has been very clear to me all my life has been there is a way of building great products that are fully compliant, fully regulated, in accordance to rules and laws, and that can really solve, 100-year-old problems. And we've been migrating for 2,000 years as a species, and we've been remitting for 2,000 years as a species. And it's very clear that just like there are challenges, there are opportunities.
Right.
And like now, even with this, lots of changes with this new administration, we're seeing a great upside because now, there's a very good perspective on, okay, let's talk about stablecoins. Let's talk about the possibility of doing business. So definitely there are always challenges. But I think if you look at things from a first principle perspective, you're always going to find ways of building great businesses that are fully compliant, fully regulated, and there are ways to navigate those.
I mean, I love the story. I think this is turning into a fantastic Orlando story, and I think people are going to be excited about it. But I'm curious. So we get out our phones, we download the app. Tell me, what am I signing up for? What is Pana?
Yeah, so we help people open a checking account with a debit card with just their passport or more than 100 IDs, which is very relevant if you're just moving in, if you just came into the country or whatever. And not only someone in the U.S. can do that, but someone outside the U.S. So in other words, Pana is a global U.S. dollar account that you can open from wherever you are, either from the U.S. Or Peru or Spain. So people can receive their paycheck there, They can spend with their card. They can move money across the globe seamlessly and easy between family or businesses or whatever.
So I'm just imagining, say this was around 85 years ago. So my family moved here from Italy.
Yeah.
Okay. So they get into the US. They probably had the same problem 85 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. So they sign up. So I guess you get friends and family overseas.
Yeah.
To also sign up.
Yeah.
So I guess is it basically sort of a Venmo type exchange, but it can work globally?
Yeah, imagine like a Venmo that works cross border, or a Cash App or a Zelle that works cross border. So seamlessly move money across the globe and spend with your money anywhere. And you remember like the SMS, when you used to send an SMS and you paid, I don't know, cents or a dollar or whatever.
When you would have to hit the 5 key 3 times.
Yeah, and it was an SMS from telco A to maybe telco B, right?
Right.
But then WhatsApp came, and it's now done all within one server, not telco and telco. That's the same thing we're doing.
Okay.
So
this is a financial app. It's a WhatsApp that's financial.
Right. Yeah. Imagine now moving money and spending your money across the globe feels like a Venmo or a WhatsApp message.
Or WhatsApp.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I always got to re-download WhatsApp when you go overseas.
Yeah.
Just to make everything more seamless.
Yes.
So it makes sense to me.
And it's honestly, it's been, an amazing journey since the start, but the last couple of weeks have been amazing. We've gotten like more than 200,000 signups in just a couple of weeks, because we opened this global account that now it's like before when you had an SMS, you couldn't do a group chat. You couldn't send pictures. You couldn't plan a party within the chat. Now, what are the amazing things you can do with WhatsApp? Imagine now what are the amazing things you can do. You can do a group saving, and someone is in Spain, the other one is in Boston, and the other one is in Brazil. So many new wonderful things you can do when everyone lives in Pana, no matter the borders. Right. So yeah, it's a neobank. It's what we call in the industry a global neobank. Mm-hmm. We offer checking accounts and international transfers. Okay.
And talk a little bit, talked about Orlando a little bit in our conversation. I don't think people understand how international Orlando's become. One thing that always strikes me is that, we're the fastest growing large metro in America. Right. We would not be growing if we didn't have immigration. The fastest growing U.S. city wouldn't be growing if it wasn't for immigration. To me, that's just astounding. And I think a lot of people assume most of those people, are coming from Puerto Rico. That's a chunk of it. But it's people coming from all over the world. So I'm just curious of the friends you've made and the business network you've grown here. Just talk about that international flavor that, a lot of people might not associate with Orlando.
So I came here on a O1 visa, which is an extraordinary ability type of work visa for high-skilled immigrants. And I'm not alone. There's a huge trend of people wanting to build businesses in the biggest economy in the world, which is the US. When you start to check the boxes of what works in terms of the place that I'm going to settle and I'm going to live, like in my case, I have a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Right.
Where can I raise my family? Where can I have my family be safe? A nice place that I can raise my kids. That is, it's booming. That from a housing perspective, from all the type of requirements you have when you're choosing a place to live, it checks all the boxes. That, in fact, me and my wife, every time we talk to people about it, I'm like, should we advertise it so much? Because if people see what we are seeing, I think a lot much more, it's going to get crowded eventually.
Words out. Don't worry about that.
Exactly. But no, honestly, it's the best mix of a place to work, to live. From an infrastructure perspective, I'm 3 hours and a half away from Miami on a train. I am a couple of hours away from New York on a plane. I'm California, all the places I need to go for work, I'm right there.
Yeah. So I remember moving to Orlando, and I didn't move here to be able to get to somewhere else.
Right.
But once you're here, and you realize there's like 200 direct destinations.
Yeah.
Like you go to a conference, for instance, everyone's taking a layover somewhere, and you probably haven't.
Yeah.
And just that ability to cut your travel time in half, or to be able to get to New York and you can be on a 6 a.m. flight, a 6:30 flight, a 7:10 flight, an 8:30 flight, a 9 o'clock flight.
It's amazing.
It's really convenient.
Absolutely. And definitely, like, again, like, not only the city and where we live and everything, you can see how well it's going, and you can see how dynamic it is and how it's growing and how they're, companies construction companies are building new places to live and whatnot. We have found a place where it's perfect for our family, but also for the business. So,
well, tell me about, so you get on a call, right? You're talking, I've heard this plenty of times before, you're talking to a funder that's out of California.
Yeah.
And they're like, Piero, where are you at?
Yeah.
And you say, Orlando. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about Orlando, or tell me, why are you there? What's keeping this company in Orlando?
Yeah, and it comes a lot, as you say. One, every time they ask me, like, obviously, there's not enough time for us to tell them all the things that we like, but it's also usually, one, it works perfectly for what we're building. Mm-hmm. We're close to the market. We're close to the ground where we need to operate, where we need to talk to customers and talk to partners and talk to associations that are here, that congregate here, and federations that work with maybe employers or whatnot. But also, it's an amazing place to live, but it's also connected to all the places that we need to visit. There's so many regions that we speak about, but the most important thing for us, and like every time I get asked that question, is that imagine that one day we build such an amazing, great story, become a unicorn, a decacorn, that it's completely obvious of why.
Right.
And that, that this becomes a place that it already is, but that everyone sees it as it.
Right. And I know there's a lot of companies, we had Stacks scale up, become a uniform. Founders had an exit, started another company. We see UCF all in on fintech, and I mean, they even bring people from around the globe here for a symposium once a year. So it's certainly part of Orlando's emerging tech story. But I'm curious of, like, from your perspective, how do we keep growing that story? So now I'm giving you a magic wand. Okay, you're mayor for a day of all of Central Florida, right? And tell me what you would do. Like, what do you see as important for Orlando to continue to evolve and to sort of take that next step?
First of all, I think it's just a matter of time that people realize the biggest part of my arguments. But one of the things I think is very important is, one, that networking. Making sure you have close by the ability to network, to get with people, either potential VCs, potential business partners, that you can sign up partnerships and stuff at a place where you get that serendipity factor. Meaning, if I, go into a restaurant, I'm not planning on meeting someone, but there's that VC and we get into a conversation, that type of encounter, that's a magical type of things that happen. And that usually happens in a place where it's stirring, where you're getting that type of networking and stuff. So I think that's very important. And I would continue to work towards provoking that, to promoting and provoking that type of connections. And I think that's going to go a long way.
And it helps you to stay here.
Yes.
If your accountant's here and your attorney's here and all these other professional relationships, it gives you a sense of community, but it also makes it hard to leave.
Absolutely. I think if you just the idea of thinking, I'm gonna finish my work day, and maybe go have dinner with an associate or a colleague, and the possibility of meeting someone that I can make business with at that restaurant, that's huge. And if there's an event that's maybe unrelated, but you're gonna see people that are related to your industry, definitely that is super, super powerful from our perspective.
So when I hear something like that, I'm thinking sort of the design of the city.
Yeah.
You're thinking of, I need somewhere that I can walk.
Yeah.
I need, whether it's coffee shops, restaurants.
Yes.
There's people around. So that means some people live there, some people are working there, some people are visiting there, and you kind of have that, that mixed use environment where it's busy from 7 a.m. to, midnight. Like there's nightlife.
Yes.
Like it's busy throughout the day because there's people coming and going for all these different reasons, not just a business district over here,
Yes.
and a neighborhood over here. That connectivity, I think, is something that's so important. And you see that, like, you go to Nashville, and they've just done a ton of mixed use development in their downtown, for instance, and kind of and change that. But you go to larger cities, even smaller and mid-sized cities that are a bit older tend to have more of that. Or you spend time in Barcelona. I love Barcelona. I've been to Barcelona. But you get the same thing. You see business people walking next to a row of 15 students that are walking across the street to a field trip at a museum. And it just creates that whole city vibe and those connections that you're talking about.
Absolutely. I think that the ideal world would be one in where you can live in a place where the one I live here in Orlando, which we love, and it's a house, and my 2 kids and my wife, and we take them to school walking and stuff. Imagine I could walk or take a scooter or take a bike or whatever to my office and also have that everything that you're mentioning, right? That restaurant, that cafe, that bar, that event that's happening nearby.
Yeah.
That would be the perfect world, right? You have everything like in that small space. So
yeah. Well, we're both kind of determined to create that perfect world. We're
Yes,
kind of, continually moving towards that. But from an inspiration standpoint, from a perspective standpoint, the last thing I want to cover is to get a book recommendation from you, or a video, movie type recommendation from you of something you think that was really good, that struck me right, and I want to share that.
Yes. Remember I was telling you about at the beginning that I come from a family of artists, my dad, but also
Right.
my cousin, my uncle. And Stephen Pressfield wrote this book called The War of Art. Not The Art of War from Sun Tzu, no. The War of Art.
Okay.
The War of Art. And he kind of explains there how true builders, creators, and entrepreneurs and whatnot are in some way artists. And he speaks about that self versus the ego, and how that self is that creator of art. And an artist can be a neurosurgeon or a customer support agent that goes that extra mile and that does things, differently. Mm-hmm. And I love that book, and it was super inspirational. Yeah, highly recommend it.
Awesome. I'm definitely going to look at that book. Awesome having you. Great story, incredible story. Glad it's happening here in Orlando. Hope you continue to grow that, scale that here, but also share that story of how you've done it, because I think that's really important, not only inspirationally, but other people that are considering, now that you can do this anywhere. We've seen that since the pandemic, especially.
Yeah.
Knowing that we have that type of ecosystem, that opportunity here, I think is incredibly important. Glad you shared that story.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me, and happy to share the work.
Before we go, where can people learn more about Pana?
Yeah, our website, joinpana.com, or Instagram, Pana app. You can download the app at the App Store and start from there.
Okay, perfect.